it's hot, about 120 out here, and I'm out here for you because I see this on the range all the time. I see people sitting and turning, sitting, shallowing, turning. Today's video, we're going to talk about this sit and turn. Does it help you? Does it hurt you? When do you use it? Why do you use it? And we're going to look at a couple of tour players and see why they sit and turn and why you might want to try this, but most likely why you shouldn't try this. And don't forget, if you do like this type of stuff, hit that like, share, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do to help show your support, because I'm out here in this blistering heat because I care about how you hit the golf ball.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the...
Okay, so before we get carried away with what this sit and turn drill is, it's supposed to emulate the feeling of sitting and turning. And let's look at one of the best in the world currently, hits the ball a mile, and let's see how much he actually sits and turns. So we're going to draw where his hips are and watch that little motion from right there to there. Did you see it? It's about a few inches. Now, if we go back and forth, we can see that it's mostly the whole body moving down. It's not necessarily him sitting on a stool, but I've heard this time and time again. Feel like you're sitting on a stool. And is it really sitting on a stool? Not really. So this is why this drill can get you in trouble, because if you start overdoing it, you can go way down on the ground and cause some issues.
So let's get one thing straight. When you are sitting and turning, first, you have to know why you're sitting. This only works if you're in good position when you start the golf swing and also in your transition. Now, when you are sitting, what do you think is going to happen? You're actually going to get closer to the ground. So if I'm getting in this position here and I'm turning and sitting, my whole body's going to drop down. Unless I have the right angle retention, when I turn and sit, I'm going to let go of the club. I'm going to bottom out 2 feet behind the golf ball. So then I'm going to have to learn how to avoid that, and this is where that chicken wing might come in, to just raise my hands back up, and now I'm back to square one.
Next, we're going to look at angle retention. Now, what does that mean? It's the angle that you set at your wrist at the very top of your swing here, and we can see that that is a pretty good angle, but there's only one way to get that correctly, is if you have a lot of turn, specifically with your shoulders, but more for the amateurs, you need to look at opening up these hips, because if you don't open up your hips, you don't have the flexibility of the tour pro. Look at all that flexion between the left shoulder and the left hip. That is a lot of potential energy stored up. Let's take a look at that sit, because it's ever so slight. Look at that. Did you see that? It's not really a sit, is it? But it is definitely going down. Now, without that turn, you're not able to get the correct wrist hinge. They're not in front of you, and there you get locked and blocked. But here we have a great motion, and she comes back up and releases hands in front of the chest. But in order to secure this sit and turn, you need to get a lot of turn on the way back.
So angle retention is key. Now, you cannot hold that angle retention if your arms are up in no man's land in space. You cannot hold this angle retention if you don't have the sufficient turn on the way back. Your arms are not going to be in the right plane to hold any sort of lag. You are going to be throwing to try and get that club back out to help you with the turn. Now, what I mean by that is, if you don't turn, you get your arms involved, they're back here. You're so busy trying to sit and turn. Where's my club shaft? It is very steep. I'm going to have to do something to hit that golf ball. And we're not gifted to do this to hit that golf ball in a split second. There's just no way. So in order for you to use this sit down and turn drill that I see many amateurs trying to do, you first have to ask yourself, how much turn do I have on the backswing? Now, this beautiful umbrella should be over my head. It might get hit on the way back, but shh, don't tell my wife. So in order to use the sit down drill, you have to make sure you rotate your hips accordingly. Now, the minimum amount of hip rotation you need is 30 degrees, but if you need to get a little bit more, what's happening to my hands when I just go ahead and turn my hips? You can see my hands are working on that lower plane line. Now, when they've reached that midway point, this is all because my hips have turned, my shoulders haven't turned, my hips are doing all the work. Now, as I complete my shoulder turn and my arms go up, I am in a better position with my hands back here that I can now work on sitting and turning and pulling. You can see that club wants to pull down in that slot by sitting and turning. But if I don't get my hip turn, and all of a sudden I get to about here and my arms pull that club back and I'm in this position here, you can see my hands are not far enough back here. So if I try and sit and turn, what's happened to my club? Steep, over the top, pulls, chunks, fins, you name it. But you also now have to look at, why do we sit?
You're wondering, why do we sit? What's the point of it? Well, one of the reasons is to get your weight to go down so you can push back up. And yes, we do actually jump at the golf ball. Take a look at the long drive hitter here. Most of his weight is stacked down, and there's a reason. Watch what happens to his hips as he makes this move down. The hips will work their way up. Did you see that? And so it's very important to understand what goes down must go up in the golf swing, and this is where he delivers most of his power. Now, most of us cannot do this. If we do, you're going to be in a full body cast for about 3 or 4 months, and you're going to blame me. Remember, there's no guarantee or warranty on my tip advice. Take this with a grain of salt, but this is why we do the sit and turn.
Whenever you sit, you are trying to go back up at impact. So you'll notice that really good players, when they get to the top of the swing, they are sitting at first. They don't stay down here. They sit, and then right at impact, they jump up with the lower body and stay down with the upper body. So it looks something like this when you're sitting, and now, boom, that's where all the drive comes in. You stay back and tilt under. You keep your hands out in front of you, and you come on through. So you can see that it's a very complex motion, and it happens so fast that is it really going to do your swing justice? Probably not. You're going to have some issues when you try this at home.
As we sit and watch Jin Young Ko swing, you can see, do you notice her jumping up and down a lot? Not really. Her hips are working more around and staying pretty level, but what they might be trying to explain is the feeling inside of them. She might be feeling like her hips are sitting down as a result of her trying to maintain in her posture and her spine angle throughout her whole swing. So just remember, what one person's feeling doesn't necessarily translate into a be-all, end-all drill to cure all issues in golf. There is no such thing as that, but can it work for some people? For sure. Is it work for everybody? Probably not. So just be careful with what you put into your system and how you diagnose your swing issues. And just to show you something a little bit different here, we're going to look at Tiger, because Tiger does something a little unique, and we can put a leveler right where his hips are, and we can see as he goes to the top of his completion, his hips are already going down. So they're going down a little bit sooner. And now let's look here. So this is where most of us feel like we're going to be sitting and turning, but let's put it right where his belt buckle is and see what moves more. And as we go through, you can see that belt buckle doesn't necessarily go down, but what is going down? Look at his head height. So his head, his upper body is crunching more down while his hips are staying level, so he doesn't even necessarily go down and rotate. At this point, he's just trying to keep those hips level while his upper body rotates down through the golf ball. And now the hips will work its way back up. So he gets it done a little bit earlier than others, but even if it's a little bit earlier, he still doesn't necessarily go down as much as you would think. So again, this could just be a feel drill. So just be very careful with how you translate that feel into your reel.
So make sure you're working with somebody reputable that can help you and diagnose if you really need to do this or if you're just wasting time. Because if you want to do this and you're coming over the top, I'm going to invite you over because I need to repave my front. I'll give you a pickaxe and you can help me with that golf motion. You can pickaxe the driveway. Perfect. But I hope that helps you. I will see you next time. Fairways and Greens.
Inside my own world of make-believe, kids screaming in the cradle.